Thank you. Years before I was a contributing writer to the New Journalism, I was writing a novel about my father, describing his childhood in a highly superstitious mountain village in Calabria called Mayada, a village that had been warped by earthquakes and the sadistic rule of foreign kings, and that had been altered spiritually by the ministrations of a levitating 15th century monk named San Francesco di Paolo. Before the novel was half done, however, I decided to abandon it. I was concerned that a book focusing on my father's past would bring him unwanted attention and perhaps even ridicule from his American friends and neighbors in the conservative Anglo-Saxon community along the New Jersey shoreline, where after 30 years of residence, he was accepted as an assimilated citizen of the United States. The instinct to protect my father should come as no surprise to Italian-American writers of my generation. Not to protect the privacy of your family from the potential exploitation of your prose would have been considered unpardonable within our ethnic group, which was overwhelmingly of Southern Italian origin and which was still influenced, even a generation or two after our parents' and grandparents' arrival in America, by that Mediterranean region's ancient exhortations regarding prudence and family honor and the safeguarding of secrets. A region that for 2,000 years had been conquered and reconquered by despots of every imaginable variety and vice is a region with an implicit history of caution and of people united in the fear of being found out. Although the conquest of southern Italy by northern Italian forces in the 19th century unified the country for the first time since the fall of the Roman Empire, it parenthetically destroyed a once autonomous southern kingdom centered in Naples and further undermined the latter's fragile economy, encouraging a massive turn-of-the-century departure of Southerners heading for America with new hopes and old fears. My grandparents were on those boats, along with the forebearers of many future Americans who would then fulfill the greatest of immigrant expectations and add to the front pages of newspapers such headline names as LaGuardia and DiMaggio, Sinatra, Coppola, Scorsese, and Cuomo. And yet, as an American-born youth growing up during World War II, a war in which two of my father's brothers fought in Mussolini's army against the invading Allies, and as a young writer in the post-war years, I began to sense broadly within my ethnicity and narrowly within myself lingering ties to the old fears of the turn-of-the-century boat people, a fear of being pulled down or pulled back by currents having nothing to do with the ocean and everything to do with the Italian peninsula from which I was socially estranged, and whose language I could not speak. And I started to see myself not as a hyphenated American, but as a hybrid American, a maverick struggling to break loose from the huddled masses that I saw as an obstacle to my identity and freedom. But how free could I be when I was caught between the gravitational pull of two worlds? How American can one feel when growing up in a home headed by a proud and assertive father who spoke English with an accent, who restricted our family record player to Italian operas, and who, failing to get our town's Methodist school board to include Ovid and Dante in our classroom studies, nearly convinced me that I should retaliate by not reading the works of Shakespeare. Italy was giving art to the world when those English were living in caves and painting their faces blue, my furious and defensive father often declared to me during the war years. It was a time when most Americans saw Italians as ditch diggers or gangsters or fascists, and when my pubescent paranoia, augmented by my father's Anglophobia, persuaded me that Shakespeare was indeed partly to blame for the lowly status of Italians in America. Unable to find contemporary novels by Italian-American authors in my university bookstore or in the library, I was drawn to writers who were Jewish or Irish-American, my reading passion then being modern fiction. Among the Jewish writers, my favorites were Irwin Shaw and Philip Roth, whose smooth styles I devoured as delectably as the chocolate candy bars that nourished my acne. Among the Irish, it was John O'Hara, in whose outsider's voice I heard echoes of my own. Although I sometimes thought of becoming a writer and serving on the staff of my college newspaper, I never tried out for the campus literary magazine. In fact, I never felt compelled to write about anything in depth until after college, while I was in the Army and stationed in Germany. I went on furlough to my father's village in Calabria. It was a furlough into the Middle Ages.